All right, it's 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for part two of our Winter Wildlife webinar series. My name is Maria Covey. I'm a planner with the Tug Hill Commission. For people that aren't familiar, the Tug Hill Commission is a non-regulatory state agency. We serve municipalities in portions of Jefferson, Lewis, Oneida, and Oswego counties. We provide services such as community and economic development, land use planning, and local governance, or how we assist the municipalities. Today, we're going to be hearing from Steve Chorma with Zoo New York. Steve has had an opportunity to work with animals in many different jobs, and today we're going to get to hear about one of them. Let's see. So we're just going to ask, so any questions you have throughout the presentation, you can pop those in the chat. We'll be able to see them and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. This is also being recorded, so after the fact, this will be posted on the Tug Hill Commission's YouTube channel, which you can pull up right now if you scan the QR code I have on my screen, or I'd be happy to send it to you after the fact. We also will post the webinar as well as the slides on our website after the fact. So with that, I think I'm going to let Steve take it away.
Well, hello, everybody. Okay, let's go ahead and use that chat real quick. And let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. While I'm getting that set up, can you guys let me know how my audio is sounding? It sounds like I'm doing a lot of reverberation. So, see if we can't fix that. Sounds okay, sounds okay. Yeah, let's see. Let's take that over here. Loud and clear. Okay, we're doing good. All right, let me set something up real quick here for everybody. Okay. All right, thank you, Maria, for the introduction. I'm all ready to go. My name is Steve Chorma. I'm the lead zookeeper of Zoo New York. And before we get started with this webinar, I got to thank three different groups of people. First off, thank you, Tug Hill Commission. I was very excited about this opportunity whenever it was first presented to me. And this is a big honor for sure. And then thank you, of course, to Zoo New York for allowing me to represent this organization because this is an important topic to talk about. And this is a very unique thing, a unique opportunity for me as well. And I'll get into that and more in just a sec. And then, of course, thank you to everybody who is here tonight. You guys are the reasons, of course, that we are doing this. So, yeah, so topic of tonight's conversation is Wolverines. So, for those of you guys who don't know about Zoo New York and what we represent, some of you guys may not have ever been here, and some of you guys might actually be from out of state. Zoo New York is a native species zoo, meaning that we take care of animals that are either currently or historically native to New York State. And this handsome man right behind the floating head on the screen. His name is Abisko, and he is our resident Wolverine at Zoo New York, and he is the only Wolverine in all of New York State, not just in zoos, but in the wild as well. So we are positioned as a very unique attraction in that way. And I have a very unique opportunity to educate and raise awareness about Wolverines because of this. I am also the only Wolverine primary caretaker in all of the state. So puts me in a very cool situation. And I'm very thankful for that. And yeah, so Wolverines are one of those animals that are historically native here. You cannot find them here anymore, unfortunately. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about, let's see if I can move my head out the way. Of course, topic is going to be Wolverines, their history in New York, where they are today, the role of zoos in conservation. And then at the very end, we're going to ask ourselves, could they ever return? And you'll go ahead and answer that for yourself. And you can see at the bottom, we are going to do some trivia tonight. I'll get into that and more in just a sec. But the big picture, I want you guys to know what to expect for tonight is that I'm not going to be doing a keeper chat per se. Keeper chats typically go over a lot of that introductory information and some of those really interesting facts about Wolverines. Now, you guys took the time to hop onto your computers and your phones, and you're going to be here for a little bit, so you could find out all of that information in much less time. So I'm not going to bore you with that. We are going to dive a bit deeper, and we are going to be talking about some of those big picture things going on with Wolverine, sharing some of my perspectives and my experience and my knowledge. And I might tell you some things that you might already know, but I'm going to change your perspective a little bit on that and maybe have you think about some things in ways that you haven't thought about it before. Trivia time. So this is going to be the slide that pops up as we do trivia. Trivia questions are going to be scattered throughout this webinar, so please be paying attention. And, you guys might be doing laundry, you guys might be eating dinner, just be ready to put down whatever it is that you're doing and go ahead and answer that question for me. We are also doing a giveaway tonight, a platinum membership giveaway. It's a big deal at the zoo, and it gets you a lot of discounts. It gets you into the zoo for free. You get you get free popcorn every time you visit. It has all sorts of benefits. So you're definitely going to want to win this if you are in the area. And participation in trivia, if you are wondering how to win, is the way that you are going to be able to win this. So the winner is not going to be the person who answers the most trivia. The winner is going to be a random person who has answered all questions. Not all questions correctly, but all questions. And then the winner will receive the membership via mail or in person. And I want you guys to have fun with this because these questions are fitted to the webinar tonight. So they're going to be things that even zookeepers are probably not going to know the answers to without having to do a little bit of research. So it's just meant to be fun. You're going to want to know the answers to these questions. So just try to have fun with it. All right. And and of course, how do you answer the trivia questions? That's right. So you guys, Maria, you might have to do a little change here so that they can address just me. If you
Mm.
guys are not familiar with Zoom, you have the ability to change who you are addressing in the chat. Go ahead and find my name. My name is Steve Chorma. I should be up near the top as a host, I believe. So if you guys can switch that over, go ahead and start sending me a message. Just say hello, just to make sure that we're all set and ready to go. All right, we're filtering in. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to get that done. Wow, I saw my name say hello to me. That is my father in the chat. I am not in two places at once. Okay. Host and panelists is okay. That works.
We have someone with a raised hand, I believe, too. If you'd like to
Okay.
pop the question.
Now, let's go ahead and get this webinar started for tonight. And what better way to get it started than by doing some trivia? All right, trivia time. If you guys are eating dinner, if you're eating baby back ribs, go ahead and grab the napkin, wipe off your fingers, and get ready to type in an answer here. Okay, so what is the most common result when typing Wolverine into a Google image search? Is the answer A, Wolverine the animal? Is the answer B, Wolverine the superhero? Is the answer C, the University of Michigan mascot? They are the Wolverines. Or is the answer D, Deadpool? Let's go ahead, get these answers rolling in. All right, I'm seeing a lot of the same answers. Don't be influenced by one another. All right, we're all over the place, and that's good. Don't feel pressured to get the answer in before me. Just get your answer in, and I promise you will still have your chance. The answer is B, Wolverine, the superhero, Hugh Jackman himself. And for bonus context, the second most common answer is actually C, the University of Michigan mascot, the Wolverines. Their football team usually is the one who shows up. And then it's the animal. You have to scroll for a little while before you actually see the animal. Now, Google is changing some things, so it might be tailored to you if you're an animal person. The animal might show up first, but you gotta do some digging to find the actual most common answers. And the fourth most common is Deadpool, for you Deadpool fans out there. Okay, and so I find this very interesting about Wolverines, and this is an important reason to start off with this question, is because whenever you do the same search for mountain lion or gray wolf or river otter, the picture of the animal shows up first. And the actual picture of a Wolverine is very buried, and that's not very common, but a lot of folks who visit Zoo New York and talk to me tell me that that's the first time they've ever seen a Wolverine. They didn't even know what a Wolverine looked like. They thought it would be bigger. They thought it would look different. I don't know. Maybe they thought it would look like Hugh Jackman. Who's to say? But there's a lot of misunderstanding about this animal, a lot of misinformation, a lot of stigmas that aren't true. But I am not upset about the comparison to a superhero. And I'm sorry if this is corny, but bear with me here because it's actually quite accurate, I think. So entertain me here for a second. What do we think about when we think about superheroes? How am I going to compare Wolverine to a superhero? Brave. Superheroes are brave. They're fearless. They're not afraid to do the right thing. Wolverines, they have been shown to defend their territory and their food and their resources from animals much bigger than them, or even packs of animals. Wolverines are, anywhere between 20 and 40 pounds. They're quite small, actually. And, defending your food from a black bear or a mountain lion or a pack of wolves has got to be very intimidating. But these guys have confidence like none other. Wolverines have super strength. Abisko, our 12-year-old Wolverine, he is considered elderly for a Wolverine. And so in his bedroom overnight, we have a bunch of furniture set up. In the summertime, especially, we have a water trough that we fill up all the way to the brim. And I am a 230-pound man. I like to think I'm in okay shape, right? And I think I might throw out my back if I try to tip over that water trough all by myself. And luckily, I never have to because I come in the next morning and Abisko has moved it across his bedroom. He has spilled half of the water out of there and sometimes he even dumps it for me in a contest of raw strength. I think an elderly Wolverine might beat me. I think that speaks a lot to their strength. They have enhanced senses of smell. They can smell food from miles away with a good wind, but hundreds of yards away, buried under snow and ice. And if you guys are sorry to stick with the comic book theme here for this slide, but if you guys are familiar with Daredevil, the superhero, he has an enhanced sense of hearing, and they often describe that as one of his biggest challenges early on is filtering out all of those extra sounds that he's hearing. And I imagine that's what it's like to be a Wolverine, to be able to smell food from miles away or hundreds of yards away. They have to learn how to distinguish and filter out some of those smells. And so, it's just incredible thinking about that sort of thing. I think that's like a superhero right there. Wolverines are intelligent. I'll get more into that later in this webinar, but just know that they are. They support their ecosystems, their communities, just like a superhero, right? And of course, Wolverine skeletons are coated in adamantium, a nearly indestructible material. Huh. Let's go ahead and exit that out. I think we got a little bit carried away with the superhero comparisons here. They are not invincible or indestructible. I'm sorry. All right, moving on. All right, some of the meat and bones of the content here. So I included this image here for some context as we get into our webinar. It's important to know that yes, wolverines are native to North America, but they are not from North America. They actually originated from Europe and Asia, known as Eurasia. During the last ice ages, they actually crossed over that land bridge that formed between Russia and Alaska. And that's how they got here. So they started out by populating Alaska and then the Northwest, and then they got all the way over to the East Coast, like here in New York, for instance. And yes, they were living around the same time as mastodons, woolly mammoths, all sort of the megafauna that we think about from that ice age period. Then next over here, I've also included this image right here, just to show you guys that, the Wolverines that we have today, they had some competition. They had some similar animals in their same family at the time throughout the years. So they had some smaller animals, they had some bigger animals, but they outlasted a lot of these guys. So I'm going to direct your attention to this guy right here. I'm going to try to do my little doodle thing here. Let's see. Let's do let's do green. Okay. So this guy right here, Megalictus furrow, he also is known as the giant Wolverine. So they were about 2.5 times the size of today's modern Wolverines. You can see about 22 to 18 million years ago. That's as far back as we have found their fossil records and their bones. But they did exist until about 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. And let's get into that for just a moment here, actually. Let's transition into the next slide, which is trivia time. That's about the giant Wolverine. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. There we go. Okay. Giant Wolverines roamed North America until only 10,000 years ago. In what region of North America did they commonly live? That's right, they did live in North America. Is the answer A, Alaska? Is the answer B, Alaska and Canada? Is the answer C, the northern US, including New York? Or is the answer D, the Rocky Mountains? Just to let you guys know, all of these answers could be the right answer. You're not wrong for thinking any of these answers. While the answers are filtering in, go ahead and direct your attention to this image over here. This is provided by some very smart people who have access to technology that's able to recreate what they believe the giant Wolverine actually looked like due to their skeletons and what they believe their morphology and muscle structure look like. This is pretty accurate. Now, we don't know for sure, of course, what their fur looked like. And we can't pinpoint exactly what their behavior was like. Maybe they're like polar bears. Maybe they went for a swim. But what we do know is that the answer is C, the northern US, including New York. Giant wolverines once roamed in New York. I think that's pretty cool. So, a little bit of context for that, why that makes a lot of sense, and here's a little bit of education about wolverines here. Mustelids, wolverines, ferrets, otters, fishers, mink, they're all known as mustelids. That's kind of the family of animals that they're a part of. The giant wolverine likely had an insatiable appetite. Wolverines can put down a lot of food. All mustelids are bottomless pits when it comes to their appetite. And to be such a large mustelid means that they had to eat all the time. And they had to eat a lot at any given time, which kind of puts the pieces of the puzzle together why they disappeared about 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age, because a lot of those animals that thrived in the cold northern climates, like caribou and muskox and all sorts of animals like that, elk, bison, their population started to dwindle a lot more. And so their food source started to dwindle. And so they did not survive as easily as some of their smaller counterparts, like our modern day Wolverines. So now you know they are bottomless pits. It is true about their appetites. And so let's talk about their ecological role, because I did talk about them being very good for their communities. They are very good for our environments for two main reasons. They are known as scavengers and seed dispersers. So let's start with the scavenging. Turkey vultures are probably the most famous scavengers that we think about, maybe crows or ravens, for instance. And scavengers are good for our environment because they control the spread of disease and they help to break things down quicker. Now, that is something that wolverines are well known for, and they're very efficient at it because they eat so much food. Their favorite food is carrion, so an animal like an elk or a caribou who has passed away, that's their favorite food source. And it takes a long time before the deceased animal will turn into viable nutrients for the soil. And so what they do is they eat the food and they digest it, they break it down, and it becomes usable nutrients for the soil much, much quicker thanks to them. And we'll go ahead and direct our attention over here to this image now with seed dispersal because it has a little bit to do with number two on the other end, which is berries. They eat a lot of berries. Wolverines are carnivores, but much like bears, they're very good at dispersing seeds and allowing them to thrive in different climates where they may not have existed before. And why bears and wolverines are very unique in this way is because birds, they're known to be seed dispersers, but in order to be good seed dispersers, they rely on a lot of other environmental conditions like wind or an animal stomping the seeds down into the dirt or, leaves falling down and decomposing. But the feces, the poop of the wolverine provides that substrate. Same with the bears, and it's more likely to germinate and actually become a plant. So they're very good at what they do, and they're very good for the environment because of that. Let's move on to this now, which is also about scavenging and seed dispersal. Let me go ahead and see if I can zoom in here. Let's see. Let's start with this one. Yeah, that worked. Okay. So, and actually, let me do a better job about that. There we go. Let's focus on that map for a second. So this is kind of getting into the territory of Wolverine intelligence. Wolverines establish territories that are hundreds of square miles. Huge, huge territories for one Wolverine. And they rely on caching a lot of their food and finding it in all sorts of different sites. And so this map does a really good job to illustrate how many different cache sites they can keep track of at any one moment. And they might revisit cache site up to 30 days after the first time they visit it, but they're very good at figuring out when it's time to forget about a cache site because that food is likely not there or gone bad. They're very good at positioning themselves geographically, knowing I'm between the most resources over here. And I think that speaks a lot to their intelligence as well. Now, let me go ahead and zoom in now to this one over here. The same thing with the seed dispersal, right? A wolverine might, eat a berry over here, and then they travel a lot. They can travel anywhere between 7 and 15 miles a day. That's pretty regular for a wolverine. So they might eat a berry over here and then poop out that berry over here that very same day. And then it just keeps going all over the place as they establish their territory further and further, supporting their ecosystem and making sure that they have more food later on. So I think that's pretty cool. All right. And let's remember this image here for just a moment. Think about all these sites that they have to keep track of. Let's think about that for a second. As we go into our next slide, which is trivia time. If you guys are folding laundry, go ahead and put that sock down. I have no idea where the match is. Maybe it's in the dryer still. The question is, how many items does the average person misplace per day? Is the answer A, 1? Is the answer B, 3? C, 9? Or D, 15? Let's start seeing those answers. Chat is blowing up. There's a lot of people here tonight. That is awesome to see. Give you guys a couple seconds. All right, it has slowed down. The answer is C9. And why is that so important? Let's go back for just a moment. Hundreds of square miles, people. 47 cache sites at a time, keeping track of them when they're going bad. I don't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday. So cool. Okay, enough of my antics. And I did want to include this because we're on their intelligence right now. The only way to get images sometimes of Wolverines is to set up a camera trap because they are known for being very elusive and they're really smart. So if you set up some food that attracts them, they might find that food very quickly and be gone in an instant. So you have to be able to stall them for a little bit. So a lot of these traps do a good job to show how just incredible they are. This first trap right here, let me take out my little doodler. Okay. This one right here. This is a traditional Wolverine trap, actually meant for trapping them. And so researchers probably are using this to tag this Wolverine so they can put a GPS tracker on them so they can actually track the movements and whatnot, track their populations that way. As you can see, he broke out. He broke it either while he was inside or outside. These are meant to be Wolverine proof. Not for this guy. Okay, now let's look at these two camera traps right here. They're not meant to trap a Wolverine. They're just meant to make it hard for them to get the food. It's actually supposed to be impossible for them to get the food. They wrap some stakes out in barbed wire and whatnot, so they're not going to cross them. Look at this. He has broken the trap over here, and over here, he's just standing on top of it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Not many animals can do that sort of thing, you know, being able to outsmart our best attempts. The people who set up these traps, by the way, they're smart people. Okay, moving on. Loss and historical context. So let's get into some of that bigger picture stuff now. But before we do that, it is trivia time again. If you guys are at Valvoline getting your oil changed and they're doing the sales pitch, tell them, hold on. Just a moment. The question is, how many miles away, excuse me, does the closest wild Wolverine live from Watertown, New York? Yeah, they used to live here, believe it or not. Is the answer A, 90 miles, B, 360 miles, C, 730 miles, or D, 1100 miles? How close is the closest wild Wolverine to Abisko right now? All right, I'm seeing those answers filter in. Whoever's looking for that missing sock who's in the dryer, I'm sorry. It'll turn up, I'm sure. Okay, they're still coming in. Give you guys a few seconds here. All right, what do you think? We're all over the place. We have no idea. The answer is D, 1,100 miles away. Guys, that's really far. That's like across half of the US. The closest wild Wolverine is in Western Ontario right now, up in northern, well, mid Canada, but for us, way up there. Um, they're quite far away at the moment, which is kind of a sad thought. Wolverines have lost 40 to 60% of their historic global range. That is true. This image right here is not AI. not one of my AI images. This is provided by the National Geographic Society, and this was posted by the New York Times. Now, notice something about here. Look at this area right here. That's New York. Incorrect. We know that they did exist in New York. National Geographic Society has been canceled. Okay. And moving on. All right. Time to start painting that picture a little bit more. Let's go through human history for a second, and we're going to relate it back to Wolverines. Okay. In 1838, the Trail of Tears occurred. The Indian Removal Act was signed, and many Native Americans were forced out of their homelands. Very sad time. In 1850, California becomes the 31st state. We barely had 30 states at this time. In 1861, the Civil War begins. In 1886, the Statue of Liberty was finished. In 1892, Adirondack Park, our largest national park, was established right in New York State. Now, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I did talk about the extirpation of wolverines. I'm not sure if I have used that vocabulary word yet. Extirpation essentially just means being regionally extinct from an area. So they are regionally extinct from New York. They were once here. So you can see where I'm going with this. So where on this timeline do you think the extirpation of wolverines in New York happened? Is it here? It's actually way the heck back here. Might have had you fooled a little bit there. So this is unfortunately one of the sad stories about conservation is sometimes it happens a little bit too late, right? So in the 1820s, wolverines were extirpated from New York State. We don't have an exact date. The DEC was not doing their thing with wolverines yet. But we do know that they disappeared in the early to mid 1800s. So about 1825, right? Which goes into the next trivia time question. If you guys are washing your dishes right now, find the closest towel because the question is, Wolverines were extirpated from New York in the early to mid 1800s. What decade were gray wolves extirpated from New York? Is it A, the 1810s, B, 1820s, C, 1840s, or D, 1890s? Let me see those answers. Let me see those answers. So let's use some context clues here. Okay. Wolverines are incredibly elusive. They're hard to find. They're hard to track. They're very hard to hunt. And as you can see with those Wolverine traps, they break out of them a lot. If Wolverines were extirpated around 1825, when did the great wolves become extirpated? They're a lot easier to find, aren't they? Well, I might have tricked you a little bit because the answer is D, the 1890s. They were extirpated much, much later than Wolverines. And I think this speaks a little bit to their intelligence. Um, Wolverines likely were not overhunted, although they were being hunted at the time. Um, they left, I think, on their own accord. That is what the research suggests. So sometimes that's up for interpretation. I believe they kind of left on their own terms. Think about their sense of smell, how aware they are, how big their territories are. And, the settlers were noisy, smelly people. They knew better than to hang around all those crazy people. And so they probably left. So again, speaking to their intelligence and their behavior a little bit. Now it's time to get into the modern era of Wolverine conservation. I wanted to include some of these images here of all these different organizations. There are some zoo organizations that are, all across the US, they're worldwide with recognition. There are some even state agencies like Glacier National Park. They're doing amazing things for Wolverines right now. They actually have a specific project that they're working on at the moment. And then we have some independent nonprofit organizations very focused on Wolverines because they are such an important animal for our ecosystem, like the Wolverine Foundation and the Cascades Wolverine Project. So I wanted to include this because this kind of gets into the purpose of zoos and what we're doing for them today. One of the biggest roles that zoos provide for the world of conservation is tracking genetics and breeding programs. Now, once upon a time, zoos, they were not always the best place in the world. Sometimes zoos took animals out of the wild, and other times, things just weren't done always in the best way. So breeding programs were established, one, to prevent that from happening, but two, because we got really scientific with it and we recognize that one of the biggest problems that a lot of our endangered animals are facing right now is their populations are becoming fragmented from one another and they're becoming very isolated, which means that there's not a lot of genetic variation in those breeding populations, which is detrimental to all those animal populations. So that's what zoos focus on. And especially for animals in our care, we are able to control the genetic diversity of the animals in our populations. We don't want crossbreeding. We don't want any unhealthy genetics because these um, breeding programs essentially act like a backup plan, if you will. If there are ever reintroduction programs or if there's ever a need for serious intervention, and those kind of things have happened before, we need to introduce healthy genetics. And we want to be doing a good job to make sure that, we're not just leaning too much into the side of being a business, but we are doing things for the greater good. And the Wolverine EEP expands into North America. You might notice that over here. So the EEP is basically the European version of an SSP program, which is a breeding program, what we call that in North America. So Europe is well known for their European Wolverines doing really well in zoo environments. They do really well in their breeding programs. Not so much the North American Wolverines, unfortunately. I'll get into that in just a little bit, but we can't talk about Wolverine conservation without talking about what they're doing in Europe right now. So there are about 144 Wolverines in European zoos, and about 59 zoos are participating in their breeding program. There's about 1,300 in the wild in Europe. What about the North American Wolverine? There's about four of them in zoos all together. And this beautiful, beautiful lady right here, her name was Valentine. She passed away a couple years ago. She was our resident Wolverine. She was a North American Wolverine. She lived till 17 years old. After she passed away, that meant there were only four Wolverines left in zoos altogether. North American Wolverines, that is. And obviously we want to conserve, do everything that we can for them in the world of conservation. But where our efforts are being mostly focused towards for them are actually in the field with their protected lands, ensuring that, we are tracking their populations, their behaviors, we're learning as much as we can about them, because that's where we want animals to be, right? We want them to be out in the wild. But it's really important that we have protected lands, that we can ensure their survival. And there is a direct link to their survival because of protected lands. And that is something that we can directly measure. So let's go through a couple examples. We're starting to wind down on this webinar for those of you guys who might have some homework to do or something like that. So gray wolves, probably the most famous right now example. Gray wolf recovery in Yellowstone. In 1926, they were extirpated from Yellowstone. In 1995, 31 wolves were reintroduced, and today there are about 100 wolves in Yellowstone National Park. They're actually expanding outside of outside of Yellowstone National Park. because they're doing so well. And this is an amazing thing because, as you can see right here, they're really good for our environment. Next, oh, before I move on, I just want to laugh at this for a second with you guys. This is an AI produced image. I would spend hours and hours trying to make this, and it could make it for me in 5 seconds. But it's not perfect. It's not stealing our jobs yet. Look at this thing right here. Oh, there we go. Look at that. What is that? I couldn't tell you. I think it's a bison mixed with a ladybug. That's my guess. What do you guys think? All right, and moving on to the next example. American bison recovery in Yellowstone. Also, a super famous example. You can't talk about protected lands and population recovery without talking about these two. We know that we almost hunted them to extinction. There were less than 300 left in North America, only 23 in Yellowstone. Today, there's about 5,000 in Yellowstone and 500,000 in North America, and most of them exist in protected lands. Bison are sometimes farmed, but there are regulations that go with that as well. So, huge success story. Now, closer to home, Canada lynx recovery in Adirondack Park. Okay, in the 1980s, we had less than 50, which is a big deal. Today, they are back to over 200 Canada lynx. They established pretty big territories themselves. So that's a lot of Canada lynx jammed into that national park. So they're doing very good. Let's go ahead and point and laugh at AI with me for a second. Look at this. 2000, 2010, 2010 again, but over here. This should say about 2020. All of this other information is correct though. So I did fact check it ahead of time, but I also wanted to laugh with you guys about this. Okay. Another example, mountain lion recovery in Montana. Montana is full of natural lands. Such a beautiful state. If you guys ever have a chance to get out there for a vacation, I highly recommend going out and visiting Glacier National Park, Bozeman, Montana, Missoula, Montana, any one of those areas, Big Sky. It's amazing out there. They're doing a lot for their natural resources and their animals. Mountain lions, like wolverines, are one of those animals that are really hard to track their exact populations because they can be really elusive. You can be staring right at a mountain lion and have no idea that you're looking at one. But we do have trail cameras set up all over the place, right? So we are able to see where they are. And places where they have disappeared from altogether, they have started to return. And every location that you could once find mountain lions in Montana, they have returned to. It almost brings a tear to your eye because we love mountain lions. And another one closer to home, the river otter recovery in Western New York. In the 1990s, the DEC and Cornell University partnered together with some other independent organizations to start something called the New York River Otter Project. River otters could once be found all throughout New York State, but they had disappeared. There we go. They had disappeared from pretty much all of this region right here. And that's a region you should find river otters all over the place. Now, because of their efforts, they relocated about 200, about 300 river otters back into the western half of New York State. And today, their populations have actually risen and stabilized. So they're doing very well. New York is one of those states that does very well to protect its natural resources. And thanks to the DEC and independent researchers, we do know that river otters are thriving at the moment in New York State. And in fact, there are river otters in Watertown, New York. If you don't believe me, I've got pictures. And no, it's not a trick question. I'm not talking about Ricky, our resident river otter. There are some out in the wild. And last but not least, you can't talk about Wolverine recovery without talking about Europe. And what they have done is something that we can do ourselves. In the early 1960s, there were less than 200 Wolverines estimated out in the wild, and today they estimate there's about 1,400. The reason their recovery has gone so successful is not just because they do really well to, um, excuse me, they do really well to actually establish protected lands, but they also include livestock compensation programs. If I can redirect your attention over here. Livestock compensation programs. That's one of those myths. Wolverines are not really hunters. They can be, but that was one of the biggest reasons why they were starting to disappear is because in Scandinavia, they're kind of landlocked. They've got nowhere to leave to, right? So they were, in fact, being hunted. That's why their populations dropped so significantly. And so some amazing folks got together to enact into law protections for them. Livestock compensation programs are one of those things that even if it isn't used that often, because I guarantee you their livestock compensation program is not often actually used for Wolverines. It's just the fact that it's there that allowed them to gain a lot of public support. And that's the kind of thing that we could do here, for instance. But it works really well in Africa, for instance, for African elephants. It's a very popular strategy that gets a lot of people on board as long as they know that their livelihoods will be protected. Okay, and let me get rid of that. I'm sorry, I'm not super proficient in Zoom. I'm not zooming around all over the place on here. Okay, and it's time to ask ourselves that question. Could Wolverines return to New York? The closest one is about 1,100 miles away. They establish territories that are huge, though. Could they return in our lifetime? I don't know. I'd like you to think about that for yourself. There's always concern for our natural world, and there should be. That's how we inspire people to take action and make change. But, generally speaking, big picture, I think we're doing a lot of good things at the moment. And, yes, we take a step back and then two steps forward sometimes, or two steps back and then three steps forward. But we're it's a fight that we are winning at the end of the day because we are seeing recovery happen in a lot of areas. I think that Wolverines will be back to New York. I think one day. There are no plans for reintroduction programs at the moment, but they might just find their way back here on their own. They are adapting to the modern world. And last but not least, we got one more trivia question. Now, this is research that we are doing at Zoo New York, so it's really important that you guys participate in this. Who is the most handsome Wolverine in all of New York State? Is the answer A, Abisko? Is the answer B, Abisko? Is the answer C, Abisko? Or is the answer D, Abisko? I need to see those answers. Okay, don't forget, if you want to win our membership, you must answer. This is not a bias survey. We are asking everybody the same question. You guys are so, so smart. And truly, look at this guy. Look how handsome he is. There's somebody in the chat named Dean Marvelli. I did not give you photo credits for this because I was struggling with PowerPoint a little bit, so I did not add your photo credit. But everybody, just so you guys know, Dean Marvelli, he provided me with all of my Wolverine photos. Amazing photographer. He's a student at the JCC Zoo Tech program. All right. That's all, folks. That's all I got for you. So now it is time for our giveaway and Q&A with me. If you guys have any questions at all, please go ahead and put them in the chat. But while you guys are settling down and figuring that out, let me go ahead and get this giveaway figured out because I want it to be truly random. Okay. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. I'm going to cut my audio for a sec. Maria, if you want to say anything, let me go ahead and figure this out.
Sounds good. Thank you for the presentation. This has been great so far. And yes, everyone, please, any questions, pop them in the chat. I wrote down a couple that happened during the presentation that we'll make sure gets asked as well. Um, let's see. And yes, thank you to Dean for all the photos. I know I used some of those photos in my intro slide as well, so those were very handy. Um, for those of you in the webinar, we do have two more of the Winter Wildlife webinar series. So on March 26th will be our next one. And with that one, we're going to talk about pollinators and having native gardens to the area. So we'll be hearing from Sierra Williams of the Jefferson County Cornell Cooperative Extension. So that's something to look forward to. And then in April as well, we'll have the last part of our Winter Wildlife webinar series, and that one will be all about owls. So something to look forward to there. Um, and luckily we have lots of questions coming in here. Let's see. And we will be getting to those. Thank you everybody for attending. We had a great turnout tonight. Just reading through some of these questions here. I saw someone say that Abisko likes meatballs. It's very exciting. Lots of great questions here. And we want to thank Steve and Zoo New York again for putting on this presentation. We really love having speakers come in, especially in the winter months. New York can get cold and kind of dreary, so we like to provide some interesting material for the evenings, and this was definitely an interesting presentation.
All right, we have our winner. I'm sorry if I spooked anybody. I didn't mean to be that loud. All right, Deborah Vink, are you still here? Go ahead and chime into the chat.
I
Yep,
think
that's
she-
right. This is all yours. This is all yours. Okay, so I want you to hang around for a little bit. I am going to collect your name, your phone number, your email at the end of this. Platinum membership's all yours. Thank you so much for attending tonight, and we're gonna be seeing you around. Okay, now let's get to some of those questions. Okay, Maria, do you want to go ahead and read some of those questions first?
You got it. So
Okay.
earlier on, we had somebody asking. So you'd mentioned that Abisko is considered an older Wolverine. So if he's so old, they were asking, how does he run around so much and how is he so active still?
Yeah. So one thing I learned about being a runner once upon a time is that being an endurance athlete keeps you young for a long time, and they are incredibly active. So, Wolverines, they don't stop. They don't stop moving. They don't stop doing things. So being active like that all the time is just kind of what they're born to do. And whenever their time comes, it happens very quickly. So it's not something that they start slowing down very gradually and chronically. You might see a Wolverine sleeping a little bit more as they get older because they just get tired quicker. But that doesn't mean that they don't still run just as much. So they pretty much they do what they do until they can't anymore, and they live life to the fullest. So yeah, good question.
Nice. So let's see. We'll stick with the Wolverine theme for now. Have you ever had a baby Wolverine at Zoo New York?
Oh boy. Um, Valentine once upon a time was a very young Wolverine, but we've never bred Wolverines. We have attempted. North American Wolverines don't do so well with breeding and human care. It's just some behavioral differences between them and European Wolverines. But no, we have not. We are famously known as kind of like a retirement home or, a home for misfit animals sometimes, So we rescue a lot of animals. And Abisko, he's in his retirement home right now.
Very nice. So let's see. We have another person asking, how do they keep their territory?
Oh, that's a very good question. Okay. So Wolverines are very stinky, first off. They smell very bad. In my opinion, they think they smell amazing. But they are nicknamed skunk bears, not just because of the way that they look and the way that they act, but because they smell very skunky. And so they pee and poop all over the place. They also have scent glands in their paw pads. So that's part of the reason why they run so often, is because they are spreading their scent everywhere they go just by walking. So, great question.
Let's see. So, how long can wolverines live in the wild versus in a zoo?
Yeah, so in the wild, it's going to be anywhere between 7 and 11 years old. There's a range naturally. As they get into adulthood, that's typically the norm there. In human care environments, we will go anywhere between probably 11 and 14-ish. And it's not unusual to see Wolverines totally healthy pass away at 12, 13 years old. That's just kind of how their genetics work. But Valentine lived till 17 years old. The oldest Wolverine is likely in their 20s right now. So it's not unheard of that they get that old. But I mean, that's like a human being 120, 130 years old. It happens, but not often.
Hmm,
Good question.
let's see. Do wolverines always live alone?
So Wolverines are naturally very solitary. And Wolverine moms are very good moms. If you see Wolverines living together, it's mom and her little ones. She's teaching them how to take care of themselves, how to hunt and scavenge. But the male Wolverines, they are notorious for being terrible fathers. Sometimes they kill their young, unfortunately. So mom kicks them out and shoos them away very quickly. Yep. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got off track, I feel like. What was the what was
They
the
were
question?
asking if they always live alone.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, I almost started answering a whole different question. It's pretty common, yes, that they live alone. In human care environments, sometimes it's different. Sometimes they will live with other Wolverines and do well.
Hmm.
Uh, but that's because we do things a little bit differently. We have some unique understandings about their behaviors, and we're very scientific about the way that we handle those situations.
Great. Let's see. There's so many questions. I don't want to leave out
Yes, there is.
anybody.
There are so many people here.
Yeah.
This is
So let's
awesome.
see. There was one question earlier, not about wolverines, but you mentioned fishers. Are fishers declining in population was the question. Let's go back.
So also hard to track. Their populations have declined, yes. But right now they are currently stable in New York State, and they're one of those animals that's really resilient. And so they're actually of least concern at the moment.
Let's see. So, how often would a female wolverine give birth, and how big would a litter usually be?
So usually it's about once a year. It's not too often. It happens twice a year, but it's usually very famous that they have their kits around Valentine's Day. Almost almost all Wolverines are within a week of their birthday being on Valentine's Day. That's very unique.
Hmm.
I will have to check through Abisko's records. He's one of those exceptions, not Valentine's Day. I believe it was actually June.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. And they will usually have 1 to 4 at a time. 2 to 3 is the most common, but I mean, really, it's all over the place, actually. So I can't say it's more likely to be 1 or 4. It's varied every single time.
Interesting.
Oh, and I do want to share something with you guys who are still here. I did mean to mention it earlier when I was talking about Wolverines in Europe, their breeding program. So let me go back and reference. my slide from earlier. Okay. There are 144 Wolverines in zoos and 59 zoos participating in their breeding program. The Wolverine EEP, so their breeding program, has transferred, also expanded out into North America. And so that's why we have Abisko. He is actually a European Wolverine. And so in 2023, when we joined the European breeding program, there were 28 Wolverines in 10 zoos. And in 2024, there were 32 Wolverines in 11 zoos. And in 2025, there were 39 Wolverines in 12 zoos. We're doing good work here. We're doing amazing at the moment. All right, let's get back to the questions now.
Great. So let's see. Oh, we had someone ask, do wolverines appear in the New York State Wildlife Action Plan as a species of special concern?
I will have to get back to you on that. So I'm not too familiar with their action plan. That
Okay.
is a very good question, though. Let me write that down. Okay.
So
All right. I
then,
apologize. I know a lot, but like I said earlier, I don't know everything. Okay.
so we did have someone ask, do wolverine claws grow continuously and how do they keep them at a reasonable length?
The paws. So their paws, they have determinate growth. So your fingernails, they are indeterminate growers. So they're growing all the time. You got to clip them. Porcupine teeth, for instance, they are indeterminate growth. Wolverine paws do have determinate growth. And yeah, it does look like they sort of just grow and grow. They're like snowshoes, basically. But they do stop at a point. Yes.
Right. Specifically about Abisko, so what are some trained behaviors that you've done with him? And then does his diet consist primarily of triple A or whole prey or something else? And then they also ask what's his favorite enrichment or snack?
Okay.
Lots of questions
That's
there.
a lot of questions. Okay. I'll do my best here. So, his favorite food is known as feline Nebraska. It is a commercially produced diet for carnivores in zoos. Now, that has beef like we would eat, but these guys prefer whole prey, right? So they have like the bones, the cartilage, even some of the guts mixed in there. They've also got a lot of vitamins and minerals mixed in there as well. It's like his favorite thing ever. We also offer him whole prey. We do offer him berries, sometimes chicken, of course. He loves chicken. Hello, Maria's cat. Um, and he can't go wrong. Believe it or not, though, we recently discovered this because we're always trying new things with him for enrichment, especially kiwi. Kiwi, of all things, is like his favorite. He will do anything for kiwi. And that has been a unique strategy of ours when trying new things with him. So everything that he knows how to do is for the benefit of enhancing his welfare and his medical training, basically. So he knows how to do basic station commands and directional movement. So if we need to move him into a crate, we need to get him to shift, we need to get him to move into a squeeze to do a vaccine or an injection with him. He knows how to do those sort of things. He also knows how to recall. So recall training is important. Emergency recall training is also very important. Let's say there's a tornado coming through. Buddy, I need you inside right now. So we need to have those kind of things trained with him all the time. So yeah, he knows how to do all those sort of things. Excuse me, not university. Minnesota Zoo, where he is from, they did most of his training, and we're kind of just following suit with what he knows. One of the things I'll tell you, his favorite thing to do is to spin. So they gave him some really high reward food items for that behavior, clearly, because anytime I slow down for even a minute, he spins and he's like, "Where's my big treat?" So he's a very smart guy. And did I miss any of those questions?
I no, I think that was all of them. The kiwi's
Okay.
interesting too. Wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, no. He loves hard-boiled eggs too, but kiwi, man,
I can't imagine that they would find that in the wild too much.
no.
So let's see. I don't know that we're going to get to all of the questions here, but we'll do a couple more. So are wolverines that are found in Europe taxonomically and morphologically different than the ones that used to live in the United States?
Oh, I love this question. Yeah, so European wolverines are bigger than North American wolverines. Genetically, they are still considered the same animal, but after that land bridge disappeared, they did start evolving separately. And so think about it like this. So since they did originate from Europe, Eurasia. Usually, the territory holders are the bigger, more successful animals, right? So, the smaller or scrappier of the animals will usually move outside of the territory, find their own territory. And so, over thousands of years, right, that just kept happening as they got pushed further and further into North America. So, essentially, the wolverines that were in North America were by default smaller. They kind of compensate a little bit. So behaviorally, that's why they don't do as well in breeding programs, is because they kind of have that small dog energy a little bit. They're more territorial. And they typically just they like being more seclusive, more isolative. European Wolverines are very sure of themselves, a little bit more comfortable, and they're used to being in areas that are sort of landlocked or heavily populated. So the Wolverines that existed over time learned how to coexist with humans more so than these Wolverines because they expanded into areas where not too many people were living at. So yeah, those are the main differences. They're a little bit bigger over in Europe and a little bit more sure of themselves.
So I'm just gonna do like two more questions just for the sake of time. So do
Okay.
wolverines have any predators?
They are an apex predator. So, I mean, sure, it could happen with a grizzly bear, a polar bear, pack of wolves, mountain lion. They are, of course, more capable animals, but in the wild, of course, they're going to defer to not fight another apex predator if they have a choice. So yeah, a lot of animals respect the confidence of a wolverine. They think this guy knows something that I don't, right? Because a pack of wolves has approached him and he is standing his ground. That's a life lesson to a lot of you guys. Sometimes it's all about confidence, right? So yeah, Wolverines, they do very well for themselves. Yep.
Right. And then final question, does Abisko have any cute nicknames?
Um, Bisco or Biscuit, sometimes Biscuit Tin. Yep.
Very nice. So I think we got to most of them. Obviously he's at Zoo New York, so
That's right.
folks go visit up at Thompson Park in Watertown. Um, do you have anything else that you'd like to end off with, Steve?
Just thank you again to everybody. And just as a reminder, oh, I didn't write your name down. Deborah Vink, there
Yes.
you are. Please stay here for a moment. I'm going to try to see what I can do to message you individually and figure out what we can do. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Zoo New York. Thank you, Tug Hill Commission. This was an awesome night. I hope all of you guys had fun.
Thank you everybody too for attending.
Deborah Vink. Okay, I'm messaging you individually.